The great hall of the galactic summit shined like 1,000 suns. It floated above the bright clouds of the planet Veraxis Prime, a world known as the center of interstellar diplomacy. Inside the vast glass dome, hundreds of alien species gathered from across the Milky Way. The air shimmered with light from translator drones and holograms. Every being, no matter how strange or magnificent, had come to discuss peace, trade, and science. Among the sea of advanced civilization stood a small human delegation. They were new to this grand stage, and everyone knew it. Humanity had joined the Galactic Coalition only 50 years ago. Compared to species who had sailed between the stars for millennia, humans were like children at an adult's table, and that was why many of them laughed. The most noticeable laughter came from the Ashira, a tall, elegant species of blue-skinned women known for their glowing eyes and perfect genetic beauty. They moved with grace, spoke with melody, and held the arrogance of a race that believed itself flawless. The Ashira were respected for their technology and feared for their pride. To them, humans were amusing, an experiment that had wandered out of its laboratory. When the human representatives entered the hall, wearing their simple Earth uniforms, a few Ashira women covered their smiles behind their slender hands. Their laughter was not cruel, but it carried a tone of superiority. "They still breathe oxygen," whispered one of them. "How primitive," another replied softly. "They even reproduce by chance," added a third, almost in disbelief. How unpredictable. Standing among the human group was Dr. Marcus Hale, a biologist and geneticist from Earth. He was tall, quiet, and observant. Unlike many humans who still felt nervous among the towering aliens, Marcus did not shrink. He watched, listened, and smiled faintly, as if he knew something the others didn't. He had heard the laughter before, in science meetings, in alien laboratories, in the way their voices turned polite when they spoke to humans. To Marcus, it was all just noise. What mattered were results, not opinions. When the galactic speaker called for silence, all sound faded. The summit began, and the topic of the day was biological stability and genetic control. The Ashira delegation spoke first. Their leader, High Scientist Seriath, stepped forward. Her silver robe reflected the light like flowing water. "Our race," she said proudly, "has maintained perfect genetic stability for 10,000 years. Every Ashira child is born flawless. No disease, no mutation, no chaos." The audience clapped politely. The Ashira women smiled with satisfaction. Then it was humanity's turn. Dr. Marcus Hale walked to the center stage, carrying a small metal case. "Humans," he began, his voice calm and clear, "are not perfect. We mutate. We adapt, we fail, but that is exactly why we survive." A few alien delegates looked confused. Others chuckled softly. Marcus continued anyway. "When a human goes to a world with new bacteria, we adapt. When our environment changes, we evolve. Our DNA is not stable, but it is alive." He opened the case, and a small hologram appeared, showing human DNA shifting and repairing itself. "Our strength," he said, "is not in control, but in flexibility. Chaos is our advantage." There was silence for a moment, then the laughter returned. One Ashira delegate leaned to her companion and whispered, "Flexibility is another word for failure." Even Seriath smiled faintly. "Dr. Hale," she said kindly but with condescension, "your people are fascinating, but chaos cannot lead to perfection." Marcus only nodded. "Perhaps not," he said, "but sometimes perfection cannot survive chaos." He stepped away, leaving the Ashira slightly unsettled. The words echoed faintly in the air, and though they continued to smile, a seed of curiosity had been planted. Later that evening, at the post-summit reception, the Ashira hosted a cultural exchange banquet. It was a beautiful event with floating lights, alien music, and sweet-smelling drinks that glowed faintly. Most species attended to show good manners. The humans were invited out of politeness or perhaps amusement. Marcus found himself at a table with several Ashira women, including Seriath. They spoke in soft voices, elegant and proud. The topic, of course, turned again to biology. "So tell me, Dr. Hale," said one of them, "is it true that humans still need physical contact for reproduction?" Marcus nodded, sipping his drink calmly. "It is true." Another Ashira laughed lightly. "How inefficient. Our kind design life in laboratories, We decide the traits, the abilities, the appearance. There is no randomness, no mistake. Marcus looked at them with mild curiosity. And no surprises, I suppose? Seriath tilted her head. Surprises bring instability, or innovation, Marcus replied softly. The Ashira women paused for a moment. They were not used to humans speaking so directly. One of them smiled politely. Perhaps one day humanity will catch up. Marcus smiled too. Perhaps one day you'll stop running from the chaos that made you. There was a moment of silence. Then unexpectedly Seriath laughed, not mockingly but genuinely amused. You are bold for a young species, she said. I like that. I'm not bold, Marcus answered. Just human. The following days were filled with research meetings and scientific exchanges. Marcus spent his time studying alien genetics and collecting data for Earth's archives. He had permission to visit several alien laboratories, including one run by the Ashira Science Guild. There, he observed their strict control over every living cell. They adjusted genes with perfect precision. No experiment was allowed to fail. To Marcus, it felt lifeless, beautiful but hollow. He preferred the mess of human biology, full of mistakes that led to discovery. One evening, while reviewing data in the Ashira lab, he noticed a flaw in their gene stabilization matrix. It was small, a mathematical oversight that could lead to biological decay over generations. When he mentioned it politely, the Ashira scientists dismissed it immediately. Our system is flawless, they said. Human logic cannot understand Ashira perfection. Marcus didn't argue. He simply noted it in his records. But inside he knew they were wrong. Nature never allowed perfection to last forever. Even the most beautiful structure crumbled under time if it refused to adapt. On the final day of the summit, the Ashira invited the human team to a farewell gathering. It was meant to be friendly, but everyone knew it was also a final chance to show who was more advanced. Seriath approached Marcus and said, You have been a good guest, Dr. Hale. I must admit you have an interesting view of life. Marcus bowed slightly. Thank you. Perhaps our species are not so different after all. Seriath smiled. Perhaps, but we will see whose philosophy endures longer, control or chaos. As they stood under the glowing lights of Veraxis Prime, Marcus looked up at the stars. He didn't feel insulted or defeated. Instead, he felt a quiet determination. Humans had always been underestimated, by nature, by predators, by each other. And yet they always survived. They always learned. He whispered softly, almost to himself. They laugh now, but one day they will see. Seriath looked at him curiously. What did you say? Marcus only smiled. Nothing important. Just a human thought. He turned away, carrying his notes, his samples, and the quiet spark of an idea that would soon shake the galaxy to its core. As the summit ended, news broadcasts showed alien laughter and polite praise for the humans' creative spirit. Across the coalition, humans were still seen as unpredictable newcomers, interesting, but harmless. But in the silent laboratories of Earth's orbiting research stations, Dr. Marcus Hale began his next project. He was determined to understand why human DNA could merge with nearly any biological pattern, something no other species had ever achieved. And somewhere far away, in the grand halls of the Ashira Empire, Seriath reviewed her data and found something strange, a small change in her biosignature after interacting with Marcus's samples. It was impossible, yet the readings didn't lie. The laughter of the Ashira would soon fade. For the first time in thousands of years, perfection had met unpredictability, and it had begun to change. Months had passed since the Galactic Summit ended. The laughter of the Ashira still echoed through the media channels. But on Earth, Dr. Marcus Hale didn't care. He had returned home with samples, data, and a question that would not leave his mind. He worked alone inside the orbital research station Athena, a human-made laboratory orbiting above the blue curve of Earth. Outside his window, the planet turned slowly, covered in clouds like white silk. Inside, machines hummed softly. The air smelled faintly of metal and recycled oxygen. Marcus stood before a transparent container holding dozens of small glowing samples, fragments of alien DNA gathered from the summit. Each one came from a different world, and at the center of them all was the Ashira sample marked S07. Seriath, he smiled faintly. Let's see what makes you so perfect, he whispered. Using his tools, he began testing human cell reactions against each alien sample. Most of them rejected each other instantly. Cells broke apart. Genetic codes refused to connect. But when he introduced the Ashira genetic material to human DNA, something unexpected happened. The samples didn't reject each other. They merged. Slowly, cell by cell, they started to synchronize, glowing softly as they shared genetic data. It was like two different songs blending into one harmony. Marcus leaned closer, his heart racing. "No way," he muttered. "This isn't possible." He ran the test again. The same result. Human and Ashira DNA were compatible. He stared at the screen, thinking of the Ashira laughter. They had mocked human unpredictability, called it chaos. But now that chaos was doing something even their perfect science couldn't. It was adapting beyond limits. This changes everything," Marcus said softly. Weeks later, Marcus was invited to continue his research on Ashira Prime, the home world of the Ashira. The invitation came directly from high scientist Sariath herself. She had heard rumors of his ongoing work and wanted to observe. Marcus accepted. He traveled through the Wormgate network aboard a small human research ship. The trip took 3 days, ending at a breathtaking world of silver oceans and glowing white cities that floated above the clouds. When he arrived, Sariath greeted him personally at the docking platform. She still had that same proud expression, but there was something new in her eyes. Curiosity. "Dr. Hale," she said, bowing her head slightly. "Welcome to Ashira Prime. I hear you've been busy." Marcus smiled politely. "Science never sleeps." They walked through corridors made of glass and light surrounded by flowing streams of energy. The Ashira city looked more like a dream than a real place. Everything was perfect, symmetrical, controlled. Sariath led him to the Central Life Laboratory, where hundreds of Ashira scientists worked in silence. Each wore long silver coats and moved with robotic grace. Their faces showed no emotion. Everything they did followed exact rules and calculations. "This," Sariath said proudly, "is where life itself is shaped." Marcus nodded. "Impressive. But tell me, does perfection ever get boring?" Sariath glanced at him. "Perfection brings peace, or stagnation," Marcus replied softly. For a moment she said nothing. Then she smiled faintly. "You never change, Dr. Hale." "I hope not," he said. For several months, Marcus worked side by side with the Ashira scientists. He introduced them to human concepts of adaptive biology, the idea that living systems could grow stronger through random change instead of control. The Ashira found it fascinating but dangerous. Still, Sariath allowed him to run his tests under strict supervision. Together, they studied how human cells reacted when exposed to Ashira energy fields. Each time, the human samples repaired themselves faster than expected. They even adjusted to radiation and chemical shifts automatically. "This is unnatural," said one Ashira researcher in disbelief. "No," Marcus replied calmly. "It's evolution. Nature never stops changing." Sariath watched quietly from across the room. The more she observed, the more she realized the human's unpredictability wasn't weakness, it was power. One night, when most scientists had gone to rest, Marcus stayed behind, running another experiment using a new type of energy, the biosynchronization field, designed to simulate reproductive compatibility across species. It was meant for theoretical studies only, to see if DNA could mix without rejection. Marcus entered the human and Ashira samples into the machine and activated the field. The chamber filled with golden light as the two samples floated together, spinning slowly. The monitor flashed warning signs, then stabilized. He stepped closer. The readings were shocking. The two samples had not only merged, they had formed living hybrid cells. The cells were dividing rapidly, stable and alive. Their DNA contained equal parts human and Ashira code. No genetic corruption. No failure. Marcus's heart pounded. "It's real." "It actually works," he repeated the experiment 5 more times. Every test succeeded. The results were undeniable. For the first time in galactic history, 2 intelligent species had created life together, naturally and peacefully. He saved the data and prepared his report. But before he could send it, Sariath entered the lab. "Still awake?" she asked softly. Marcus turned. "I couldn't sleep. I found something." She looked at the glowing chamber, her eyes widening as she read the data. This can't be true." It is, Marcus said. Your DNA and ours, and they fit together. Perfectly. Sariath stepped closer, staring at the monitor. How? Every test for centuries has failed. No two species have ever been truly compatible. Marcus looked at her with a small smile. Maybe because they were trying to control it. We just let it happen. Sariath stood in silence for a long moment. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "Chaos creates life." Marcus nodded. Exactly. The next morning, the discovery spread through the laboratory like wildfire. Scientists from every department came to witness it. Some thought it was a mistake. Others believed it was a miracle. The coalition was informed, and observers from multiple species were sent to confirm the results. Within days, the entire galaxy was talking about it. Human DNA merges with Ashira genetics. Hybrid life found possible. The impossible has happened. Every news channel played the same question. How did humans do it? On the Ashira homeworld, the reactions were mixed. Some celebrated the discovery as a step forward for science. Others saw it as an insult to their purity. The High Council summoned Sariath for answers. "You allowed chaos into our code," shouted one elder. Sariath remained calm. "Chaos created us all once," she said. "Perhaps it's time we remember that." Marcus, meanwhile, was called to speak before the Galactic Science Assembly. It was held in a great hall filled with delegates from dozens of races. The last time he had stood here, they laughed. Now everyone was silent. He began simply. "Life is not meant to be perfect," he said. "It's meant to change. That's why humans adapt. That's why we survive. And now that same adaptability has shown the galaxy something new, unity through diversity." The crowd listened quietly. Even the proud Ashira remained still. No one laughed this time. Sariath, watching from the audience, felt something she hadn't felt in centuries. Admiration. She realized how wrong her people had been. Humanity's strength wasn't in control or technology or perfection. It was in the courage to fail and try again. Later that night, Marcus stood outside the research dome, watching Ashira Prime's twin moons. Sariath joined him. "You've changed how we see the universe," she said softly. Marcus smiled. "I didn't change anything. I just showed what was already possible." She looked at him quietly. "Perhaps our two species were meant to meet." "Perhaps," Marcus replied. "Maybe the galaxy needs a little chaos to stay alive." They stood in silence, two figures from different worlds watching the stars. In the distance, laboratories continued to study the hybrid cells. The results were still growing, multiplying, and adapting faster than expected. Something new had been born, something that could change the future of every intelligent species. The once proud Ashira had laughed at humanity. Now they looked at Earth with respect, and a little fear, because the experiment had proved one truth the galaxy could no longer deny. Humans don't just survive. They evolve, and make everything else evolve with them. The discovery spread across the stars faster than any ship could travel. From the cold moons of Thalix to the shining towers of the Ashira Empire, the message was the same. Human and Ashira DNA had created life together. It was the biggest scientific event in 1,000 years. Every major species sent their best scientists to verify it. Some came out of curiosity, others out of fear. No one had expected this from humanity, the youngest and least advanced species in the Galactic Coalition. Yet it was true. The experiment was real and the results could not be denied. Dr. Marcus Hale, the quiet human scientist who had started it all, became the center of attention. He had never wanted fame, but now his name was known across the stars. Every news broadcast showed his face and every headline carried his discovery. But Marcus didn't care about fame. He cared about understanding what came next. Inside the Ashira Central Life Laboratory, the hybrid embryos, part Ashira, part human, floated inside protective energy fields. They glowed softly like small suns suspended in liquid light. Monitors surrounded them, showing stable vitals and constant growth. Ashira scientists watched them in silence. No one laughed anymore. Some looked amazed, others afraid. It was clear now. Humanity's unpredictable DNA had done something even their most advanced technology could not. Sariath, the high scientist who once mocked humans for their chaos, stood beside Marcus as they observed the chambers. Her voice was soft when she spoke. "They are alive," she said. Truly alive. Marcus nodded slowly. They are, and they're stable. No rejection, no decay, it's natural. She turned to him. Do you understand what this means? The coalition will panic. The Ashira Council will question everything we've believed for centuries. Marcus looked calm. Then maybe it's time they do. Within weeks, the hybrid development was complete. The embryos matured faster than expected, guided by advanced incubation systems. The scientists monitored every heartbeat, every pulse, every cell, and then one morning, the first hybrid child was born. It was not born through human or Ashira means, but through a bioenergy birthing chamber, a safe, non-physical process that allowed the new life to emerge. The small child opened its eyes and looked around with a quiet awareness. Its skin had a pale blue glow like an Ashira, but the eyes, deep brown, curious, and bright, were human. For a long moment, no one spoke. The room was filled with the hum of machines and the sound of the child's soft breathing. Seriath whispered, "He looks perfect." Marcus smiled faintly. "No, he looks alive." The second hybrid was born hours later, a girl this time with human skin tone and glowing silver eyes like the Ashira. She reached out and touched Marcus's hand through the glass, and for a moment, even the most logical scientists forgot science and simply felt awe. These children were something new, not human, not Ashira, but both. They carried adaptability and precision, emotion and logic. They represented everything both species lacked on their own. News of the birth shook the galaxy. Some called it a miracle, others called it dangerous. The Galactic Council held emergency meetings. The conservative species feared this new hybrid life would disrupt the balance of power. The Ashira Council demanded control over the research, while human representatives argued for cooperation. But through all the noise, one truth echoed across every world. Humanity had achieved what the greatest civilizations had failed to do. For the first time in galactic history, different species could create life together. The coalition finally invited Marcus and Seriath to speak before the entire council. The grand chamber was filled with delegates, thousands of alien leaders from every known world. The atmosphere was heavy with tension and curiosity. Marcus stood at the center with Seriath beside him. The lights dimmed, and a hologram of the hybrid children appeared in the air. "They live," Marcus said simply. "They think, they grow, and they are the future. Not because they are powerful, but because they are proof that life can connect instead of divide." The hall was silent. Then Seriath spoke, her voice calm and strong. "For centuries my people believed in perfection. We removed every flaw, every weakness, every unpredictability from our genes. But in doing so, we removed the spark of life. Humans reminded us that imperfection is not failure. It is potential." The delegates murmured softly. For the first time, the proud Ashira publicly admitted they had been wrong. A council member, a tall reptilian general, stood up. "Dr. Hale," he said, "do you claim this mixing of species is safe for the galaxy?" Marcus met his gaze. "No," he said. "I claim it's necessary." The hall fell silent again. He continued, "Every species here once came from the same origin, from dust, from stars, from chance. We built barriers to protect our identities, but those barriers also stopped our growth. If we never take risks, if we never evolve together, then we will fade alone." His words spread across the chamber like a quiet storm. No shouting, no debate, just the sound of realization. After the meeting, the council agreed to form the Unified Life Project, a joint research mission between humans and Ashira to study hybrid biology under peaceful supervision. Other species volunteered to join. The project's goal was not power but understanding, how life itself connected all beings. Seriath was appointed as the Ashira director, and Marcus as the human representative. Together they led scientists from dozens of worlds in building a new research colony, orbiting neutral space. It was named Horizon Station, a symbol of beginnings. There, the hybrid children grew under careful guidance. They learned fast, much faster than any human or Ashira child. They could breathe both Earth air and Ashira atmosphere, withstand temperature shifts, and even heal from wounds in minutes. But more than that, they were kind, curious, emotional. They loved learning, asking questions, and exploring. They were living proof that life was stronger when it embraced difference. Marcus watched them often, proud but humble. "We didn't create gods," he said once. "We created hope." Years passed. The hybrid generation multiplied. The once isolated species began sharing cultures, art, and knowledge. Trade increased. Wars decreased. The galaxy started to feel smaller, not in space, but in distance between hearts. The Ashira no longer laughed at Earth. They now sent students to human universities, eager to learn about human philosophy, creativity, and adaptability. In return, humans studied Ashira energy technology and longevity techniques. Two civilizations that had once mocked each other now walked side by side. One evening, standing on the observation deck of Horizon Station, Marcus and Siriath watched the stars together. The hybrids were playing below in the glowing gardens, their laughter echoing softly. "They have your curiosity," Siriath said. Marcus smiled. "And your calm." She looked at him quietly. "When I first met you, I thought humans were weak. I thought your chaos was foolish. And now?" he asked. "Now I think," she said slowly. "Chaos was the universe's first language. We just forgot how to listen." They both stood silently, watching as one of the hybrid children pointed at a distant star and asked what was beyond it. Marcus answered softly, "Whatever comes next." The galaxy had changed. The laughter that once followed humans had become respect. The name Earth was no longer spoken with amusement, but with admiration. Humanity's unpredictable nature had proven to be its greatest strength, the spark that reignited evolution across the stars. And though Marcus never sought glory, statues of him appeared in many worlds, always with the same inscription beneath. He showed the stars how to live again. Humanity had once been the joke of the galaxy. Now it was the reason the galaxy laughed, not in mockery but in joy. The Ashira women, once proud and distant, now raised children who carried both human hearts and Ashira grace. They no longer mocked Earth. They visited it, studied there, and called it the second home of life. And every time they saw a human, they remembered the quiet man who taught them that imperfection was not a flaw. It was creation itself. The universe had witnessed many great discoveries, but none as important as this simple truth. When humanity reaches out, even the stars change.